to go over questions. So we are basically going to start off with some questions that Kristen and I came up with, but we definitely want to leave plenty of time for students and alumni attending today to ask their questions as well. So please feel free throughout the course of the presentation, any questions that come up, put those in the chat. And then when we finish kind of going through our first 5 questions, we will start addressing questions that students and alumni are putting in the chat. So again, feel free anytime, throw those in the chat, and then Kristen and I will make sure that we ask the panelists them. So getting started, to our panelists, if you could please introduce yourself and talk about your role in hiring for your organization. Whoever wants to start.
I'll go ahead and start. So my name is Dan Howard. I'm with Motorola Solutions in downtown Chicago. My role is kind of an interesting one. I sit on the talent acquisition team, but I work across all of our verticals. So I touch everything from executive roles all the way through software engineers to network engineers to system technologists, which work on our radio networks. So I do a little bit of everything. I've been there for about 1.5 years now, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, Dan, I'm gonna follow you. Thank you guys so much for having us today. We really appreciate being here and meeting with you guys. I'm Hope Green. I serve as the Senior Talent Acquisition Specialist with a focus on external partnerships for the Academy of Urban School Leadership, a role that I've held for 3 years. And I too work across a variety of lines or business lines. More specifically, I work with the Chicago Teacher Residency Program. And so I serve as the lead there, and I work with an amazing team of 5 to 6 recruiters to go around the country and identify amazing talent for our schools.
All right, I'll jump in. I'm Eric Schmitz. I'm going to be starting on Monday, actually. I'll be an account manager with Randstad. But before this, for the last 5 years, I've been a recruiter in the IT space and within immigration for about the last 5 years. So yeah, I think that's what we're covering, right? You're muted.
Just dive right in.
There you go.
Sorry about that, guys. During these unprecedented times, what are some essential job search tips you have for students who are looking for either internships or full-time employment?
Okay, I'll start there. So first and foremost, stay encouraged. There are many employers that are waiting to meet you and to connect with you. I feel very certain that having a plan in place of how you're going to conduct your search. If you've not worked with your Career Services Center, I encourage you to do that as well. They're really great with helping you to identify employers who may be aligned with what you're seeking. I always encourage individuals to know your why, know your purpose, okay? That's going to definitely dictate how your job search is going to go. If you're kind of just shooting for anything that may work, that's probably not going to yield the best results for you, but having, a focus, some accountability levels for yourself as well. And what I mean by that is, if your goal is to apply for 10 jobs in a day, ensure that that's what you're doing and set a plan in motion to be able to do that. Right now in this vertical space, I can speak from our organization. We're so happy to hear from candidates because we understand that this can be quite difficult and trying to figure out which way to go, who's hiring, who's doing, who you can connect with or align with. And so employers at this time, they're also very, I would say very gracious in terms of we understand that these are unprecedented times and that, definitely are in the spirit of being here to support you as a candidate.
I love that advice, and I agree with it, especially the plan part. The big thing is stay active. Check LinkedIn, check job boards, and remember that a lot of people are going through this time. And I apologize, my dogs are playing in the background. I'm sure everybody hears it now. Right now, from when I started at Motorola, when I would open up a position, I would see anywhere from 60 to 100 candidates. Right now, I'm getting that in the first hour that I post a rec. I can easily see 500 candidates for one position. So be targeted in your search. Don't just mass apply. Apply for a position and reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. And when you reach out to the recruiters on LinkedIn, don't just spam them a message, hey, I applied for this post or for this job, or I'm looking for a job. Send them a really detailed message. I applied for position X. My skill sets that align with this position are, ABC, and I really love an opportunity to talk. Believe it or not, I think this week alone, we've extended offers to 3 or 4 people that have messaged me on LinkedIn, letting me know that they applied, letting me know their skill overlap, and then I was able to find them in our applicant tracking system. So taking those extra steps and knowing and having that purpose goes a long, long way, especially when, unfortunately things are like this and there are so many people applying for positions.
Yeah, I want to jump in there because I want to second a couple of things and then I want to add to it. So having a plan, you gotta have a plan. Okay, that's where it all starts. But in order to have a plan, there's a few things that you have to understand about yourself, and you got to start with what your strengths are. Okay, now you're graduating, so you have a degree, right? And maybe you're walking away from your undergrad, maybe you're in your master's, so you got a little bit more focus. But generally, 9 times out of 10, you walk away from your undergrad knowing that how much you don't know about any one particular subject. So if you're having a hard time narrowing down your strengths and your weaknesses, really focusing on what are your interests. What are the things that particularly stood out to you during your undergrad in some classes that you would be eager to learn more about? And I say that because to go back to what Dan was saying about standing out and staying active, he's right. The market is totally saturated right now. And, you have to assume that, most folks are average Joes. So they're doing what the average Joe does, which is spamming the internet, blowing up recruiters with resumes and then, blanket sort of salesy remarks. And then they're leaving it lie there. Okay. So when Dan says stay active, he's dead serious. But the staying active piece is important because you really have to stand out in staying active. Consistency is key. The more you get in front of somebody, the more your name is going to pop up. And eventually, even if it's from like total annoyance because you've sent a person your profile 100 times, it's on them if they haven't responded yet, right? Make them give you hey, thanks, but no thanks, or make them give you a response, especially if they're in a position of hiring. Okay, but with that plan, go back to your interests, know your strengths and your weaknesses, and target specific companies, all right, that you can go into and have some level of understanding, whether it's because you have a family member that worked in the industry or in a similar company that you can get some inside information on, and maybe some of you guys are more advanced in that, so you already have some specific interests in mind. But when I was graduating, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and I kind of still don't, to be honest with you, in some respects. But, I just landed this job at Randstad after 5 very grueling hour-long plus interviews with VPs and directors for the sales role. So as a person that just transitioned and had to, really do my due diligence on LinkedIn, understand what was going on within the company, do some on-the-fly research in the moment to make sure that I was prepared, that's really what made the difference, in my opinion, in my interview process in getting that job. I think I did more research than any other candidate. I followed up unlike any other candidate, and I was intentional in doing what I could to stand out in this process.
Can I just add something to, you guys are amazing. You want to make sure that all of your communication is professional, okay? That's number one. Like, you may know me and I may know you, or some kind of through an affiliation, maybe Roosevelt. However, I still expect the candidate to show up as a professional first, okay?
Thank you. And we did have a follow-up question come through the chat. I just wanted to ask before we go on. How do you find out who the recruiter is?
So you don't. I know for my team, we have about 35 recruiters. Reach out. You don't have to reach out to all 35, but reach out to a couple and just let them know, hey, I don't know if this is your position, but I was really hoping that if it's not yours, you can put me in contact with whose it is. I know that for one of my best practices, I always try to reply to those. And if it's not my position, I'll direct you to the person whose it is, or I might take a quick call with you and just find out, okay, like, what are your skills? Why do you think you're a good fit? And if everything works out, I'll send your resume right over to one of my colleagues.
Added to what Dan has said, generally most organizations will have their team listed on the website. And if it's not on the website, you definitely will find them on LinkedIn. You just go to the company's profile, and then they'll generally list all the individuals who may have a profile on LinkedIn, and mostly that's like everyone. You can find it that way, and you can do a direct message through LinkedIn. You also can go to the website, and in most cases, there is there's a link where you're able to connect with a recruiter. If you're looking for us, you can find all of our information on the website.
Yeah, great point, and I apologize. I'm assuming that everybody knows LinkedIn is probably where most of the action happens now. If not, if I had to throw a percentage on it, I would say probably about 65% of interactions are going to occur on LinkedIn, and the rest will be Indeed, Glassdoor, places like that. But LinkedIn's probably the place where you're going to find the most traction reaching out to people directly.
I'd like to jump in and answer Lily's question there, if that's okay.
Sure. So the
So what are
question
the
is,
pros and
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, what are the pros and cons of using a recruiter versus applying directly for a company? I tell every candidate this is, and you want to use both. You never ever want to just rely on a recruiter. Ideally, you're going to have a relationship with different recruiting firms that have access to different clientele base. There's a lot of different staffing companies out there that are industry specific, skill set specific, maybe sometimes even very one or two, boutique client specific. So there's a lot of different staffing firms out there. I think the last check was like 18,000 across the United States. So in applying directly, so using the recruiters, in both instances, the feedback that you're going to get is based on your follow-up here. When it comes to applying directly, to echo what Hope was saying, there's typically like an HR at company email handle on the company website. So at the end of the day, fire over your resume to that email, add in there a very brief bio, and wait for a response. Typically you'll get one, sometimes you won't. But the thing to understand here, and this is the point I think is really crucial, is that this is applying for a job is like any other sales cycle, okay? There's the introduction, there's the proposal, there's the follow-up, there's the negotiation, there's all these steps to it. So just because you fired over your email one time and you didn't get a response, you can't just let it lie there and say, oh, they must not be interested. Okay, you have to make the intro and then try to make the intro again and again and again until you get that feedback. And that's what's really important here. You can't give up, especially in a time right now. And this all is going to go back to the whole standing out thing. What are you doing to stand out? Okay, how well do you know yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses? How well are you engaged in your interest? And if you specifically really do have an interest in something, I highly encourage you to figure out how you can get into some sort of boot camp and some sort of real live sort of simulation of using the tools or technologies or whatever you're getting into to hone those skills right now while you're sitting idle looking for a job.
All right, great. Did Hope or Dan have anything else to add to that question?
I think you hit it right on the head.
I think you have to do what everyone's style is different. So whatever works and resonates with you, that's what you do. What's more important is, as Dan and Erica stated, is that you're engaged. You want to manage your own career, and this is a part of that process.
All right, great. Well, we are going to go on to our next question here. How do you feel students can effectively network during COVID-19 as we are practicing social distancing?
There are a number of online platforms that allow you to do that. I know that even in my role, I schedule 3 professional development sessions per month. And I find those on Evite, Invite, professional associations. You want to get in community. So you want to get into community with people that either have the skill set that you desire, they're doing the work that you want to do, or that you can be a thought partner and that you also have some insights that you can provide as well. There are a number of organizations that provide these networks free of charge. LinkedIn is also, we're gonna keep going to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is also a very, very important place to go as well, because there's so many groups on there. And don't forget that your university and what they may have to offer, your career services office. Even if you're networking with someone that attends Roosevelt as well, you're still extending your network. You wanna make sure that you're growing and that you also have something to contribute as well. Everyone has something to contribute. Don't think that you don't, everyone does.
LinkedIn, again, to join on what Hope said, Handshake is another great tool. Go to as many virtual career fairs as possible, but take advantage of the programs that Roosevelt has, especially for students. Roosevelt is one of the few universities that I know about that already has a mentor-mentee program that's built out. It's definitely a great tool. And then, yeah, the networking events and the groups that Hope alluded to are awesome.
Okay, let me jump in and say one more thing to you guys. So the groups as well. Also, there are a number of informational sessions that companies offer as well that we're offering, at this point, where you can go on our website and join one of our sessions. If that's something that you're interested in doing. Most of our sessions are in platforms like this, like Zoom or Google Hangout. It allows you to connect with other individuals as well. We feel very strongly about community, so.
Yeah, and the community pages are so important. And you don't just find these community pages on LinkedIn, but there's Facebook pages. And I don't know what everybody plans on doing here, but my mind always goes to IT. That's just what I've come up in. So I think like every technology has its own entire community that supports it. Okay, and more than just liking the page, what's also important is to be an active contributor. If you're doing a boot camp or something like that, or trying to get a certification, or just follow the threads and see what kind of questions people are asking, and ask some of your own questions, put some of your own input out there. Okay, and just engage in the community, because that's really what you got to do right now during COVID. If you can't get face to face, is you got to become hyperactive in the online community. And for a lot of people, especially me, that's totally foreign. I still struggle with it tremendously at this point, but I mean, there's no denying its impact on getting connected with people. And then with the whole being a contributor piece, make sure that if you do whatever you're in, find a way to get some sort of portfolio together. Something that is able to exemplify the work you've done, projects you've turned in, to kind of give you some extra material to use and lean on during the interview process. Muted.
Heading over to the chat. Sorry, guys. A student is asking, is paying for a premium LinkedIn worth it?
No, do not do it. It's not worth it. I know that might come as a shock because I think we brought LinkedIn up about 50 times. Having a premium membership is not going to change how much effort and work you're going to have to put in. If it's a silly analogy, and I'm going to use it for myself. if I want to get back in shape and get back to like a long time ago, I played college basketball at Roosevelt. You know, I could pay for a really expensive gym membership, but I'm going to get the same. I'm going to get the same style workout and the same. Well, I'm going to put in the same amount of effort whether I go to a really expensive gym, whether I work out at home, or whether I go to Planet Fitness and save a bunch of money. To me, it's not worth it. It's not going to impact the amount of work you're going to have to do as far as doing your research and reaching out to people and things like that. Some people might disagree with me on that. I'm also a penny pincher. I don't like spending money. So that's my 2 cents on it. Hope, Eric, do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I do, actually, some very specific ones. So when it comes to paying for LinkedIn Premium, there's different things that come with paying for it that the average person doesn't necessarily take advantage of. So LinkedIn Premium, they market, they advertise the whole, see who's looking at your profile, so on and so forth. And that's cool, but unless you're going to start actively engaging with the people that look at your profile, but at the same time, not many people that actually look at your profile, you know, may or may not be able to get you anywhere in terms of your professional career. Where I think paying for LinkedIn Premium can be very beneficial, and I encourage you to take advantage of the free trial for the first however long they give it to you. But LinkedIn has this entire education platform called LinkedIn Training, and they do, I mean, you want to know about something, it's on LinkedIn Training. Now, I don't know, I'm not an expert on LinkedIn, so I don't know exactly how much of the online learning platform you get by paying for LinkedIn Premium, but I do know that in paying for premium, you do get access to the LinkedIn training, and that in itself can be extremely, extremely valuable because it's more than just interview tips. It's software tips, it's technology tips, it's anything that you need. It's there. So there's the caveat.
So I'm going to jump in and chime in with what Eric and Dan both have stated. In terms of LinkedIn, it really is how you use it and utilize it. It's going to make the determination of if you want to do premium or the free services. One thing that I love about the paid portion of LinkedIn is that you are able to direct message individuals from companies. And oftentimes in some of the larger companies, you would need that feature to be able to connect with the recruiter that requires a direct message. And so I think it really depends upon your usage. There are a number of platforms that you can use as well that may be as beneficial, but you know, don't spread yourself across the earth. Choose a couple of places, and those are the ones that you feel that you should be committed to, you know, learning and utilizing as much as you possibly can.
Great, thank you guys. Something that I want to add that Indeed is doing a really good job. I think it was you, Eric, who mentioned LinkedIn training. Indeed is doing a very good job since the pandemic to really put out webinars and training and guides. So that might be something that you guys want to look into as well. I've attended a couple of their webinars and they've been actually pretty good. So just as another resource for you all. All right, moving on. How has COVID-19 affected hiring in your organizations?
So because our specialty and our space is the education space, it hasn't changed much. Our residency program is one of the premier, residency programs in the country. So we generally see a huge amount of interest in the program itself. I think what the pandemic has allowed us to be able to do is have the time to really get to know our candidates much better. We've changed our format and how we actually receive our candidates. We've added, features that would allow, again, to build that community. We've added a group interview process. We've added several videos that speak to, the unprecedented, unrest in the country, things of that nature. I think that we are more attuned to what is happening in the country, and we want to ensure that we're supporting candidates in that way.
Yeah. So with regards to COVID-19 specifically, there's it's impacted in a couple of different ways. Right now, there is a lot of people in the job market, so there is inherently better talent available. And with COVID and funding and everything being so up in the air right now, the sales cycle to go from like even getting the manager, even getting the position approved to actually releasing it to the public, to then getting the candidates in and cycling through, that process is even much longer. And in many cases, you know, when the final approval is resting with finance and HR to get the, you know, 6-figure budget approved for this individual for the next 1 year, you know, that is taking longer to get. That approval is taking longer to get. So because that sales cycle is longer, there are more people in the job market, and it's in many cases like more senior level and more talented individuals. Managers are being even more selective in their hiring process. So, and in the individuals that they hire. Now, before, you know, they were able to sacrifice some technology and hire for character, or they were able to, you know, hire for, you know, or vice versa. And nowadays, managers are asking for everything. They're interviewing until they get exactly what they're looking for, because they know they're able to interview 60 people. And, you know, it's just extending everything by a tremendous amount of time. So that's really the impact that I've seen with COVID.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I mean, I'm in the first responder space. That's really Motorola Solutions bread and butter. We saw a tremendous. I apologize, everybody. Hold on. We saw a tremendous slowdown in hiring in Q2 and in Q2, which is normally one of our busiest times. The nice part, the good part for everybody is now we're seeing a huge uptick. So during times when we were traditionally slow, i.e. Q4, I think you're going to be seeing a lot more open positions. To kind of further what Eric said, with COVID, we've seen a major change in how people interview, how people interact. Everything's virtual now. And it's really hard for hiring managers to gauge people when they're not in the same room as them. And that's really changed some hiring habits for managers, which has slowed the process as well. So, I mean, overall, COVID has tremendously slowed down the hiring process from a comfort standpoint for candidates, because I know it's tough for candidates when they can't physically see the office, they can't physically meet the manager. Same thing goes for the managers. And it's just really slowed that process down. I know for us at Motorola, we won't put a rec out until it's approved financially by finance, which also has slowed down some things, because now managers will propose a rec, they'll have to justify the rec, they'll have to have a meeting with finance and potentially even a VP. So the process of getting the recs even out there has slowed tremendously.
I think the one thing that also is that this could be very well industry specific, as there are some industries that the hiring process is much quicker, the demand is much higher, or the demand hasn't changed. So it really depends on the actual, you know, the actual space that you're in or you're looking to be in.
All right, thank you. I think we had a couple more people join. So just to let everyone know, a reminder, if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat and we will be asking those to our panelists. We did get another question come in through the chat. When it comes to resumes, is it true that companies are using JobScan more and more as opposed to actually going through resumes and reading through them?
That's a really good. Oh, go ahead. Oh, sorry about that.
Dan. Go ahead, Dan. I'll let you.
So it all depends on the company and the kind of software that they have available to them. I know that for us, we use Workday. I've had exposure to a couple different applicant tracking systems. We call them ATSs, so I'm going to use the term ATS moving forward. So it all depends on the company's ATS. Workday will put out a small summary of each job automatically. But I think more on the front end, if you're proactively being reached out to, most recruiters use something called a Boolean search string, which will target very specific words based around skill set. So if I'm looking for a sales manager, I might be using a Boolean that says account manager or business development or sales. And then, you know, if I'm looking for somebody specifically in software sales, it might say software as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. So that front end part of proactively recruiting somebody is going to be more weighted on specific terms. As far as actually getting the resumes, most ATSs are now built to give summaries of each position, and they'll highlight certain words if you put them into, like, if I want to go through a resume and I'm looking for, and it's a technical resume, and I'm looking for somebody who specifically works with Java 8, I can throw in Java 8 and it will pull the experiences with Java 8 up to the top, so that way I can at least see that in your resume you have that specific technology. So I think it's the best practice to always read through a resume, but you definitely want to make sure you're customizing your resume to specific positions. Yeah, you can have a generic resume, but definitely make sure your resume aligns with the job description, especially the tools listed in the job description. Sorry, Hope, let me turn it back over to you.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Dan. Our organization is in a unique position because we have 3 lines of business. 2 lines of our business do use applicant tracking system. The division that I'm in, we use a CTR system. So basically, we actually look at every single applicant's application that comes in, including the resume. We look at every single document that comes in. There is a dedicated recruiter that's part of what their role is. And so every single application that comes through us, trust and believe that we look at every single piece of paper. It allows us to get to know, because our work is so specific. It is important that and also we feel that it's important when someone takes the time to put a complete package together. We want to respect the fact that they took the time to submit the application to us. Obviously, in much larger organizations that may not be possible, but that's the area that we feel that we do very well, is that we do provide that one-on-one customer focus candidate experience. So again, if you send your applications to us, know that someone is looking at every single document that you send.
Yeah, and great point. And I wish that I could say that we always did that. But I know for us, sometimes it's just not possible. And I wish it wasn't the truth, but I believe in transparency and candor. I can speak for myself specifically. I had a role open for maybe 48 hours and I had 1,100 applicants. I know 1,100 people went through the trouble of creating a resume and sending it in. Unfortunately, I also have another 50 positions I have to manage. So there's no way I just don't have the time to sift through 1,100 resumes and read 1,100 resumes for one role. I would have to commit myself to that one role and put 49 other roles on hold. So coming from a larger organization, unfortunately, that's something that I have to compromise on at times, which is why, you know, we use things like why when I use Workday, I'll specifically search for certain skills that I know are important to the hiring manager. Pains me to say that. Sorry.
Definitely understand. Definitely understand.
So I think the main takeaway there then is, regardless of whether you have a person looking at your resume or an applicant tracking system looking at your resume, it's really important to tailor it according to the job that you're applying for.
100%.
All right. Another question: as a hiring manager reviewing hundreds of applications, what makes a candidate stand out to you in their cover letter or resume?
For us, the candidate understands the work that we do, and that they are able to show an alignment to mission, to core values, to commitment to, you know, working in the schools, being able to support the communities and the families. So we look specifically for individuals who can basically tell us their why they want to do it, and also understand. So, yeah.
100% agree. I'm in total agreement with Hope. You know, if you were to apply for a position at Motorola Solutions and talk about Motorola mobility in your career, you're probably not going to get the role. You know, random fun fact: Motorola Solutions sold mobility in 2011. So even though we both have the name Motorola, the two companies have nothing to do with one another. So when you're sending a cover letter, make sure that, once again, you could have like a base foundation to work off of, but make sure it's tailored to that employer. It's really easy to pick out generic, hey, I'm going to send this cover letter to everybody cover letters, and cover letters that are written to directly go to this position and to this company.
And trust and believe, recruiters know when we look at an application, whether it's a resume or a cover letter or whatever, we can tell almost immediately when it's cookie cutter.
Yes, we try to stress that to our students. Like, make sure you put in that time and dedication. It's quality over quantity, for sure, for sure. Eric?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's unnecessary to put in a cover letter if you aren't going to put together more than a 3 or 4 sentence summary. What's super important in the documents that you put out to the public is that they are very genuine and very sincere to you and your experience and your abilities. Okay, but short of giving like a I have experience in XYZ, you know, if that's a technology or whatever, you want to give like, you know, make your statement and then give some examples, whether that be successes, whether that be projects specifically, anything, any kind of additional detail. Now, you don't need to write an entire summary or an entire like novel about a whatever that you're going to put in there, but make sure that, you know, the person that you're going to talk to is going to ask you about your resume. And if you got a bunch of nonsense on your resume that you can't even talk about, and they pull out one bullet point and that says, oh, well, it says you have experience with this, that, and the other thing. Tell me about that. And then you start the sentence with, well, it's never a good look. So just make sure that the resume as a whole is very genuine to you. I understand from an academic perspective, they give you a broad overview of a lot of different, again, I got to go back to IT. They give you a broad overview of a lot of different technologies. And it's very common for somebody with little to no experience to blast out, to put on their resume, all of these like very current technologies. And the second somebody looks at your resume and sees that it's all academic and no real substantive experience, you know, that's where you lose all credibility. So in your resume, make sure that it focuses on your strengths. Don't add in anything more than what you're literally capable of, you know, providing examples of. And you don't necessarily need a cover letter if you can accomplish within a few sentences in your summary that you're an ambitious, energetic, hungry professional looking to conquer the world and dominate the industry.
We're definitely add growth mindset in there as well. Like, we're looking for people that can not happy staying where they're at, but they have the ability to grow. So
To add, oh, I'm sorry.
Keep going.
To add on, you know, if possible, make sure what you're putting in there is measurable. If you are able to grow an account by 10%, if you are able to, you know, cut your ticket times down by Y%, don't just put down that I could like in a summary or a cover letter that you accomplished something. Make sure that it's measurable, so that way you can talk to how you did it in the interview. You know, I was able to increase sales in a certain region by 75% year over year. And you don't have to put how you did it, because during the interview, they're going to say, well, you said you did this, how did you do it? And then you can really dive into the meat and potatoes of how you were able to accomplish something like that.
And I want to,
Sorry.
I want to break it down a little bit further, because I know that there's probably at least a couple of brand new graduates with maybe little to no work experience at this moment. And I think regardless of what industry you're going into, something that you need to absolutely be able to walk away with are some very key takeaways in some very key interest areas from what you've gathered from your undergrad. It's okay to talk about papers you've published, or turned in. It's okay to talk about grades. It's okay to get recommendations from professors. Okay, so go after those. At the end of the day, they have to be genuine, right? It's got to be able to be substantial, the info that they provide about you. You were a standout student, you were always participating, you were very attentive, you turned in your work on time. The same things that people would look for from a previous employer, you have to apply to your academic experience. So, I get how college can be sometimes, but you really got to take it serious and lean on that to build your brand as you're just starting out, because you don't have any sales or work experience to say, I doubled the size of our department, or I made $2 million in the last 2 years, or things like that. So you got to celebrate the small wins, and that includes good grades on some really well written papers and some recommendations from professors.
Don't forget the volunteer opportunities and any work that you've done in the school with any organizations or any work that you've done in the community. That is very valid, and it can translate into experience, and it should translate into experience. But Eric actually brought up a point I was going to talk to you guys about. Whatever you submit or turn in, you want to make sure that, as Eric said, is authentic to you. I know that it's easy to have someone to write a resume for you, but that resume needs to resonate with you. When you're sitting in an interview, you're going to have to talk about these things. And so it doesn't, I'm not suggesting that you don't receive help. If you're working with career services, you need to look at them as a partner and an ally, but you are responsible for your career. You are responsible for ensuring that people know who you are and know your work style, this sort of thing. So make sure that you are taking a vested interest in these documents and what is going out there, because again, this is your brand that you're building, and you want to make sure that it's reflective of who you truly are.
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Hope. I always think of myself as a guide, but it's all about you and what you can bring to the table, and really being able to discuss that well, and really sell yourself up. So yes, definitely. This kind of leads into our next question. When I heard you say, Eric, that, if you can accomplish things in your resume, then don't add a cover letter. And we've been getting various opinions from different hiring managers about cover letters. So we wanted to know you guys' opinion. Do you read the cover letters, all of them, and how important do you guys feel they are? I think I have an answer, but I want to see what you guys say.
So we don't accept cover letters, and here's why. We have an essay that has to be written, and it provide us with so much more insight. There's a prompt there, and there's also a video that's required, and the video simply states, "Tell us about yourself." We're able to tell a lot about a person based on the video and based on the essay. So cover letters for the CTR is not something that we expect of candidates.
So for us, it depends. If you're looking to make a career transition, so let's say you start out in tech and you want to go into sales, or you're in sales and you want to get into pre-sales engineering, or you want to make a pivot, cover letters become extremely important, because in that cover letter, you need to kind of explain why you're making this transition and the skills that you believe will carry over to this new role. So in some instances, I think cover letters are important, because they can be a guide to us as recruiters or to hiring managers on what's urging you to make this career change. And since I work across so many verticals, cover letters are extremely important if you want to become a technical writer, a proposal writer, if you want to get into marketing, if you want to become do something in administration or an executive assistant style role, because all those require a great deal of writing, and that is going to be scrutinized heavily because that's your first bit of writing that we're going to see. So if you want to become a technical writer or a proposal writer or an admin, and you have a bad cover letter with grammar errors and misspellings, you're going to get eliminated really quick. So long, short, 50-50. Sometimes they're crucial, sometimes not so much.
Yeah, I would, support that all. It really is specific on the position and the skill set that you're going after. The most important thing is that it is effective and it stands out, and it's just not a bunch of rambling nonsense. Again, it has to be genuine, it has to be you, and it has to accomplish a mission, which if that is explaining, a little bit about yourself or a career transition or something else, where it's demonstrating like some part of your skill set, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be necessary. But I would, also say that, the two very similar companies within the same industry, one may want it, one may not. And so I definitely think it's good to have one prepared. I think that you're always going to be refining your summary. You're always going to be refining how you communicate about yourself as you do it more and more. And so it's good to have it, prepare it. It'll help you in your interview process, especially if it's like, hey, tell me about yourself, because there's some specific ways to tackle that question, and, use it as needed.
I think what's most important is that you follow the directions that the company outlines in terms of their process. Occasionally a candidate will ask for one document and they'll send 50. And so you want to make sure that you're following the process, because that tells a recruiter a great deal about you as well.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead, Kristen.
Okay, well, we want to make sure that we open up the chat for students. There's a couple questions right now, but students, or alumni, if you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat box. And one of those questions is any tips for learning about openings before they are posted? So do you guys have any tips for that?
So it's not what you're probably thinking, but it is really important to connect with your network. And your network isn't just your best friends or your parents or your family members. Like your network is anybody that you could reach out to, regardless of how long ago you knew them, what the last conversation was, that you can reach out to, check in with them, see how they're doing, get an update on what they're up to these days, and let them know what you're up to these days. Just, and when we look at like the 10 degrees of separation, there's probably a lot of people that are within our network that, we could reach out to have a friendly conversation and not expect them to become best friends. But at the end of the day, that's how you're really going to stand out, is you got to get in front of the individuals that are in hiring positions. And the only way to do that is to really engage your network. And it's going to be awkward reaching out to people you haven't reached out to in a long time. But these are times unlike any others. So the folks that are going to do those types of next level efforts are the folks that are going to get the jobs the fastest. I've seen it personally. I encourage this to everyone. Reach out to next to strangers, lower your standards a lot. Reach out to people, see how they're doing, and see where that trail takes you in terms of who's got an opportunity open that somebody heard about that you could be in front of.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan, you and I.
I'm so sorry. I feel so bad interrupting people.
No.
The joys of everything being virtual. It's like Eric read my mind, except he went into way more detail. Relationship building is key. If you're going to get ahead of things, if you want to know about stuff before it happens, it's all about relationships. Reach out to people. It's kind of weird. I literally have reminders on my calendar to reach out to people every once in a while that are just in my network that I am friends with, but I really don't interact with commonly, just because it's a good best practice. Just reach out, see how they're doing, and have those, you know, I don't want to call them trivial conversations, but small conversations, because you never know where those could lead, and you never know when you might get that tap on the shoulder. And hey, you know, my hiring manager is talking about bringing on an additional team member. I think you might be a good fit for the role, and you might know about it a week before everybody else. Or you might be able to give your resume directly to your friend who's giving it to the hiring manager before the rec's even posted. There is no secret sauce to finding out about those opportunities. It's all about, you know, relationship building and things like that.
I'd also add a couple of things. One is that most organizations have alerts, so you can sign up for the alerts when opportunities. I know we have alerts, so when we post a position, you'll know that the position has posted. So that's one way of doing it. But to Eric and Dan's point as well, it's okay to go inside your network, inside their network. I will tell you, every single role that I've held in my professional career has been because of someone that I knew, or that person knew someone. So don't limit who your network is. Make sure that you diversify it, because so for example, someone's like, I want to go into education, and they'll connect with me, but I may have a contact that is in a completely different occupation, but they're looking for someone that has an education background. So the opportunities may not be where you think they are. You have to make sure that you're unearthing them, looking for them in every corner. Almost every organization has a tech. Every organization has HR. Every organization has these things. So the opportunities may not be where you may think they are. So ensure that you kind of widen your net.
Awesome, thank you. We have about 5 minutes left. Hopefully we can get to this last couple of questions here. What does an employer look for in the summary overview section of a resume? Personal skills?
We look for alignment, and that may extend to professional and personal. I know that in our particular line of business, you have to have a professional skill set, but so much of that also depends on your personal mindset. So the two go hand in hand for us. So if you can talk about, how our mission resonates with you, or how our core values are aligned with your core values, that's a candidate that we're going to take an interest in.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Short and sweet is what I would say. Obviously, detail is good, but it has to be specific detail, genuine detail. Don't add a bunch of fluff that doesn't necessarily pertain. And then the standard length of a cover letter. At the end of the day, length doesn't necessarily matter as long as it is very specific and covers what it needs to cover without a bunch of additional fluff. And then I'll just jump into the next question about regarding the look of your resume. In my opinion, simple goes a long way. I've seen the people that have all these different text boxes and bubbles and skills and meters and graphs, and I totally understand, and I can appreciate the extra hustle that goes into that. But at the end of the day, it's all a little kind of, I guess, arbitrary is the word. It doesn't really have much impact in terms of you getting the job. At the end of the day, you can have the flashiest resume and have the worst interview skills, and you're not going to get the job. So I would just make sure that your resume is simple, to the point. It says what it needs to say. It doesn't need to be overly flashy. It's not a representation of you as a person or a professional in any way, shape, or form. So just keep it simple.
You also want to make sure that it can meet the demands of an applicant tracking system. So all of those text boxes, as Eric has alluded to, things of that nature, will kick your resume out quickly. So you want to make sure that your resume can go through an ATS system.
I agree with everything they both said. I personally hate when people put graphs on their resume. For me, it's almost a disqualifier. If you send me a meter and the meter's this big and you're this good at skill Y, what's the measure of that? How did you get to that point? It just doesn't make any sense. And most of the time, those things, adding that kind of additional fluff will make it so an ATS can't read it.
All right. Well, we are just about out of time. Oh, I think we got one more question. If we can answer this last one. I heard this before from one of those pyramid scheme guys who try those door-to-door gigs or whatever they are, but is your network really your net worth?
Well, I suppose if you ignore your network, you probably wouldn't want that to be representative of your net worth. So your network is what you make of it. And I think that goes to many things. So not to be vague there, Santino, but really at the end of the day, your network is what you make of it.
I agree.
Same thing. I'm in total agreement.
All right. Well, we are
sales is a really valid option. If you got no idea what you want to do with your life right now, go look at some sales gigs in all different industries. The base is low, but if you can be energetic and get in front of people, you can find some success in sales. And I'm an Army vet, so I always encourage people to look at what the military can offer you, including paying off your student loans and getting you advanced degrees at no cost.
And Christian, I'm more than happy to answer any additional questions that anyone may have. They can email me directly. I'm more than happy to answer questions.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Hope.
Same. If anybody wants to, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I will be more than happy to look at resumes or to give any advice I can.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. Well, we want to thank you, Hope, Eric, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving your invaluable opinion about these very, very important topics for our students. We really, really appreciate you. On behalf of myself, Teresa, and Career Development.
Good luck,
my pleasure,
guys. Stay
care, everyone.
encouraged.
Will do.
Thank you so much. And thank you, students, for attending as well. Definitely keep an eye out on your email or follow us on Facebook, Instagram at RU Career for more updates on upcoming workshops. And everyone have a great night. Thank you.
Yes. Stay safe.
Dan, I'm going to connect with you, okay?
Sounds perfect.
I think I lost Eric.